Welcome to the continuing story of the history of Los Alamitos. I'm your host, Myrt Perisho. We've had a lot of groups on our stories, but tonight we've got one of the most colorful groups that's in this town, the town of Los Alamitos. And in case you haven't guessed by now, that colorful group is the volunteer firemen. Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. Well, welcome to Leo Layton, to his wife Florence Layton, and to Tony Campbell.
Thank you.
Glad you all made it. Before I start, I'd like to say something about Leo, though. I've talked to a lot of people setting up this show and a lot of firemen, and I have never heard of anyone getting more respect than you get, Leo. Even the brand new volunteer firemen speak about you with lots of love. Good guy, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Leo, let's start with you telling about how the station and volunteer fire department really came about, why, where, and everything.
Well, some of the businessmen around town decided we needed a fire department here, and there'd been a fire or two that they kind of had to put out themselves, and they decided we needed one, so they got together and kind of got the ball rolling, and we went around, beat on doors and so forth, and got donations and bought an old Model A 3-axle fire truck.
You did?
It was pretty dilapidated, but it run good. And we gave that to the county. And they put a surplus military pumping unit on it, which was very good. Didn't look like much,
but it worked.
Oh, it worked. It beat a lot of the fancy ones. But anyway, we got that going, and then we kind of needed a station. And so we found a fellow here in town named Loren Cloud. He owned the lot that the museum is now on, and he sold that to us for $200. And then we deeded that over to the county, and they built the station for us. It was a kind of a 50-50 thing with the county. If we'd do something, they'd balance up, and that kind of kept our hand in it, and theirs too.
And that was a real adobe building that they built for you, out of real adobe. Okay.
Yeah, that was real nice there, but where am I?
Well, then how did you all move into that then? You moved in, you had to buy part of your own equipment, and the auxiliary came in and helped buy some of it?
Well, yes. First we started meeting at Grace Johnson's, who was our first secretary. A real nice lady. That take us in their home and have our meetings and so forth, and feed us coffee and cookies and one thing and another, and we sure appreciated that. And
she even had a number, didn't she? She became a real fire woman.
Yeah, when we got our badges, she was given badge 14. There was about 17 of us, I think, at the time. And
well, you were 4th fire chief, is that right?
That's right.
Who were the 3 first ones?
Buckfish was the first one. He lasted about 3 months. Then Henry Romberg, we just called him Hank, and he ran it for a few years, and then he left town, and his mechanic that was working for him took over as chief, and he kept it until about 1951 or so, something like that. And that's when I made chief.
And how long were you chief?
Well, until 81.
And that's how long? 36 years, something
well,
like that?
Well, 37 years total.
Oh my
but,
gosh. I know what we've got to do. We have something here. Would you pass that down, Florence? We have your chief's hat. Put that on. Take a little glare off there.
Yeah, do that too. I think the old knob's kind of got a little oversized.
Does that feel good to have it back on again?
Well, it's a little tight. Got a fat head.
Nothing like a man in uniform, huh, Florence?
Yeah, right.
Well, you also were real proud of the volunteer firemen because there were so many cross skills that they had.
Oh yeah, we was loaded with men from all walks of life. That we'd get on a fire and need anything. Well, we'd ask this one or that one. I was plumbers and carpenters, tinsmiths, and I was a welder, and we had truck drivers, tractor people, and just anything we needed, somebody knew how to handle
You're
it.
just covered everywhere.
Mhm.
That's great.
And
Well, and everyone, of course, had their own profession. This was a second profession for them, so
Yeah.
they all had to know something. Florence, tell us about the Women's Auxiliary.
Well, I don't know how many women were actually on the first auxiliary, but you had to be a wife, mother, or sister of a fireman. We also had honorary firemen. And our main function was, well, we had money raisers like bazaars and spaghetti dinners and bake sales, and we always had a booth in the annual carnival that we had in town. We furnished the kitchen.
At the
At
station.
the station. We served at the fire chief's meetings that met at the station. And then we turned out for the fire calls almost as much as the firemen did.
That's what I heard. You would be there at the coffee.
We were there to have the coffee on and the cookies or donuts or whatever, especially if they were on a long fire. We'd take them right out to the fire.
And there's
And,
nothing like that happening now, is
No,
there?
no, there's no auxiliary now.
No, and no one goes out to, unless some neighbors would come out with something.
Yeah,
that
right.
They're just there
Yeah.
fighting the fire.
Mhm.
You've got some more stories about the fire station, about your dog. Tell us about that dog.
Oh, old Duke. I mean, everybody in town loved old Duke. And whenever there was a fire, the siren went off. He was the first one to the fire station.
Uh-huh.
He'd go to the crosswalk to cross. And one time he got locked in the fire station. And the alerters, or their speakers, whatever they have there, when the fire siren goes off, it remained open to see whether, in orange, whether it really activated in town. And they heard this dog howling in the background. And he'd torn up the place a little bit before the
had.
next siren went off and opened the doors where he could get out and come home. But yeah, he was on all of them.
And he would beat Leo to the
Oh
fires?
yes, oh yes, yeah.
But he would do it right.
Oh sure, he crossed the crosswalk.
He went to the crosswalk.
Right.
It was better than Leo did.
Right.
And how was Leo getting there most of the time?
Oh, on his tote goat or the car, or he's even ran to the fire stations. But
And you were usually in the blacksmith shop, weren't you, Leo?
Yeah.
When these calls would come, so it wasn't too far, really, to get there.
Couple blocks.
Yeah, wasn't bad.
he
But
always
the
left
dog
his customers standing there waiting,
Sure,
though.
like a good volunteer fireman. That clanging goes off.
Yeah.
Before you had the building, Leo, how did you get the word out that there was a fire?
Well, that was mostly by phone. They would call into the garageman there, and our old truck was sitting alongside the garage, and he'd go out and try to blow the siren. That didn't work too good, but his wife would get on the phone and call somebody, and then they would in turn call more people, and we finally got to the fire by phone calls. And
That's
Or you
amazing.
could always see the smoke sometimes, too.
yeah, that helped.
Phone call, you didn't need
You
that.
just go out.
That's
to-
right.
Of course, now we've got beepers,
Oh,
Pager.
and so they can be in a restaurant anywhere and just hit it right at the station.
that's right.
Yeah, come a long way, huh? Well, Tony, let's talk about you were original buyer in Dutch Haven,
The first Dutch Haven, 1960.
and you were a volunteer fireman.
In
What years?
1963 until 1983, then I retired.
20 years.
20 years.
Of a volunteer fireman.
Not as long as Leo.
No, but that's a long time to do something like that for your community.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, you guys had a ball. I love these stories that I've been
Well, we
hearing
can't
from
tell you all the stories.
I know. You tell me a story and you say, well, I can't tell
We're
that
just
one
skimming
now.
the
But
top right now.
That was
You've all-
an enjoyable time.
it was. Tell me also, you're known for something else. You're twins.
Yeah, they were the first born in Los Alamitos in I had a 65, 1965.
First twins.
Right.
In Los
They were
Alamitos.
born 9 months after one of their fireman's dances. So.
We'll just stop right there with that story, okay?
Okay.
You have 2 grandchildren,
Yes, I have
Is that right?
two grandsons. I have 4 daughters and 2 grandsons.
and you have 9 grandchildren?
9.
Is that right?
Right.
9. One of your first calls was a volunteer fireman.
When I first got on the department. yeah,
You
it was-
got yourself into a little trouble.
Yeah, I was at the Gum Grove, which is be 7th Street and Los Alamitos Boulevard, and it was eucalyptus trees. I don't know where they ever come up with Gum Grove, but to me they were eucalyptus trees. And we were out there, and it's fun when you first get on to squirt water out of the hose with a lot of power on it and everything, and I was really having a ball out there. And
You were hyper too, you were new.
Oh yeah. Turned and I looked at him, and I turned it on, and the mud just flew all over him. And I thought, well, my job's all over with. I'll get fired on this one.
But he let you stay for 20 years?
Yeah.
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 But were you ever afraid of him after that?
No, never afraid of him.
No? No?
He wouldn't get in the road so I could get back at him.
We
in
didn't let
20
him have a
years.
hose, or he'd have killed all of them. Probably.
Well, tell me about the worst call that you were ever on, the scariest.
The scariest was Paseo Grande fire. And, I didn't realize that volunteers from little Los Alamitos were going to be clear out in the woods fighting fires. And I've questioned, you know, that was scary. But it was exciting. I'd never been on one. But we got kind of trapped with a grass fire coming at us. And I don't know if the truck would run or wouldn't run. Something happened, but I know that we both panicked. And I remember you running in the truck, and I ran around the back of the truck, and the poor guys in the truck, the cab with no top on it, the fire came in and burnt their ears.
Oh,
But we got out of it.
that
It was
close.
real quick, but yeah, and you can't breathe, the heat and everything. It was really,
Oh.
I think I was more scared than I had to be, but I had never been in anything like that before. So it was a
That-
real education.
that was in
Don't
Corona?
go again.
Did you ever go on another grass fire?
Oh yeah, lots of them.
Lots of them. That was in Corona, that Paseo
Yes.
Grande.
It started in
Started
Corona.
Came up over the hills into.
This is over close to Lemon
Yes.
Heights.
Yeah, we ended up on Lemon Heights
Yeah.
with structures, protected
Oh.
structures.
Boy.
We were out there for what, a day and a half to 2 days.
What a while.
One nice thing too, come morning, the first thing we could see coming up through the smoke was a Salvation Army truck
Right.
with
Is
sandwiches
that
and
right?
things, and they was there Johnny on the spot and wouldn't take a nickel.
Right,
Yeah.
and Visine for your eyes because your eyes were really burnt.
Yeah.
And they had that with them, so
Oh, yeah.
they
yeah.
knew.
Yeah.
They had everything with
Oh.
them, but
Salvation Armies have
I mean,
always
they-
been something,
They
haven't
were in
they?
before utility people and a lot of other people.
oh yeah, they were the first help.
Well, tell us real quick about your holiday meals.
Oh, it seemed like nearly every Thanksgiving or Christmas, just about the time we got ready to settle down to a nice meal, we'd get a call, and it, well, more times than not, it was Lefty's manure pile up on the north end of town. And we'd go up there and spend an hour or two, and then have to come home to a cold meal that
Lefties,
we almost needed a bath after we got out of that.
I can just imagine Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners with that
Always.
beepers.
And Easter, and you always have a lot of
Always.
people in the house and relatives and everything.
And then you go. Well, we're halfway through our half hour, and at this time we have kind of a little show and tell going. We're going to show then and now pictures of buildings around Los Alamitos. Are you ready?
Yep.
Take it away. Hello again. We're back with the Volunteer Fire Department. We'll start again with Leo. You had quite a scary thing happen to you. You were on a fire truck once and something happened. Tell us about that.
Well, we was heading out to a fire crossing Valley View. Well, we looked, and apparently all the cars was stopped, and we proceeded on through and almost made it when a car come roaring through and hit us. And there was a kid pretty badly hurt, and ruined the car. And, well, we could see the fire from where we was, so we let off a man, and then the rescue truck came, and they did what they could, and we went on to the fire. And
You said it gave you a pretty good jolt, though.
oh yeah, it almost knocked me off. I happened to have a real good grip on the bar on the back, and I was flying around and finally settled back down. I looked up, and our resuscitator was flying around there, and it finally settled back down where it was. Just a kind of a eerie, amazing thing. And
That
well,
must be something that every fireman dreads, going through those intersections.
it is.
It's a real worry.
You never know when somebody's going to come a-diving through, when everybody's stopped and find a hole to get through.
Yep, yep. You also had the distinction of being the last volunteer fire chief in Orange County. Tell us how that came about.
Well, when they started integrating our stations and putting paid men in, which was usually a 3-man crew around the clock. It was great for the city and all of that, but those guys were captains, and they just didn't like the volunteer chiefs telling them what to do and having a little rank on them. So, owing to me not having too much longer to go, they left me with my chief's rank and took the rest of them away from the whole county. So I had an extra few months of being chief in our department.
You're the last one.
Until I retired.
Yep. I'll be darned. Florence, you had some pretty good dances over at that fire station. Right?
Yes, that was the highlight of the year, is our firemen's dances, and that was their way of making money to buy all the equipment that they needed. The firemen had a dance crew that went out and listened to different bands to find one that they wanted for their dance, because we always had a live band, and we always had some pretty good ones. But we weren't allowed to have any liquor in the firehouse, so everybody set up their bars in the back ends of their cars. So there was quite a bit of people being outside through part of the dances.
So they'd run out
so
there
they'd go
for
out
their
there,
drinks?
get a drink, and then come back in. And but we had some great times.
That's what I've heard. I've heard
Really
some
had
big
some
stories
great times.
about those dances.
Everybody looked forward to it every year.
Oh, and also you had progressive dinners?
Oh, yes. That was once a year we had those. And so the first stop would be for hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and then we'd go to the next one for salads. And the main meal was always at my house because I had the largest house. And besides, they liked homemade applesauce that I always made.
Is that what did it?
Right. And then they went to another house for the desserts, and then they'd have dancing or poker or whatever entertainment that they had. But we always look forward to those.
Oh, don't you wish you were doing
Yes,
it again?
there's just nothing like that anymore going on that I know of.
It's a close-knit group.
Yes, very
All
close.
of you, the wives and the men.
Yes.
And you really respected each other, didn't you?
Yeah.
I know I've heard so many good stories from the firemen about the Women's Auxiliary.
Yeah, we all
How
took
much
our
it meant.
turns at it, you know. And
Well, Tony, you've got some good stories. And how about telling us
I
about
promise not to tell a lot of them.
about your most embarrassing moment? You thought maybe in life, but definitely as a volunteer fireman.
As a fireman, yes. That was, we had a call, and it was to the Thrifty. It was a car on fire, I believe. And I thought we were going to the Thrifty market. And we came out of the station and headed south on Los Al Boulevard. And the driver apparently thought the same as I did for a few minutes, because he pulled up and stopped to make a left turn. And I was on the tailboard with some other men, and I thought, well, I'll jump off and stop traffic both ways so he can make his left turn, so I could make myself visible for traffic coming south and then the traffic going north. And I had my hands out and got them all stopped, and the truck started moving, and it took off straight on down the boulevard. And the guys the men on the back have an emergency button back there that honks a horn up in the front. And if they'd have pushed it, the truck would have stopped and let me get on. But they didn't push it. They just waved at me like this. So they thought that was real funny.
It was.
Yeah. And I walked over to the curb and sat down, took my helmet off, and a big Coca-Cola truck came up. And they said, did your truck run off and leave you? I said, yeah. So they gave me a ride down to the Thrifty drugstore, is where and it was a woman with a hot engine. The engine boiled over. That's all the fire was about. But they got me down there.
But you caught up
I
with the
got
truck.
even with the guy that was driving it, too.
You did?
Yeah.
How?
I left him.
Oh, I always felt so secure. Well, you have another story it's an amazing story about the Watts riots.
Oh, that was, our police department seemed to be more worried about it than the firemen. We didn't even think about it as far as anything, hurting our town, but they thought Long Beach was beginning to boil a little bit, and they were afraid it was going to maybe boil over into Los Alamitos. So they had a special meeting for all the firemen and the policemen, and they told us that they wanted us, if we had a call, to come prepared to protect our fire station with rifles. Yeah, I thought of John Wayne, And and if we went to a call, that they would go with us and put a perimeter around us to protect us. And so we said okay, and we got a call, and I go running down. Well, first of explaining my house, my twins were still babies, and I had a playpen in the living room, and I remember having rifles leaning up against it, loaded, so in case the fire bell went off, I could run down there with it. And I went storming down there with it, and a friend of mine was also a fireman. He came in, but he hadn't been to the meeting. And I handed him the rifle, and I says, "Protect our station." He looked at me, "What's that? What are you talking about?" And we would go to the call, whatever it was, and
oh boy,
the people usually come out. They're real nosy when there's a rescue or a call.
Sure.
And when they saw all the policemen around us with guns, they stayed in their houses. They didn't come out at all.
So they ringed you with guns while you fought the fire.
Yeah,
Boy,
that was their plan. Yeah. They
amazing.
were really ready for war. I was amazed. I thought about taking some firecrackers and throwing them in a little fire, but I thought with those guys with machine guns, they'd probably kill half the neighborhood. So.
And they did have machine guns.
Yes, from the Navy base. They borrowed them from the Navy, which
Boy.
amazed me too.
Yeah.
And they even asked me, they said, if snipers start shooting at you, in the dark, on your fire trucks, we had big spotlights. And they said, would you please try to pick them out, And I says, I can't reach that far when I'm laying under the truck, because that's where I'm going to be.
You remember all that too, of course, Leo, don't you?
Yeah.
That was an exciting, you were glued to your TV sets during that time. Glued.
Oh,
that
was terrible.
That was something else.
Well, I want to ask each of you a question. I want you to really think about this. If you could have one thing now that you had then, what do you miss most? What would you like to have now in your life that you had in those good old days?
Youth.
Youth, yes.
Youth. What else? What do you really miss?
As a fireman, as a volunteer
Yeah.
fireman? Oh, the comradeship we had
Right.
with each other, and the friends, and the parties, and the
Yes, a
fun.
lot
and
of good
help
times.
one another. Because if you needed any help, if you were going to pour concrete and the truck was coming, you could call about 5 or 6 guys, and they'd all be there to help you wheelbarrow it in the backyard. And all it cost you was maybe, I don't know how much beer it cost, but it...
Yeah.
What about you, Florence?
Same thing. I miss all the people,
You miss
I don't miss him getting up at night, in the middle of the night, every night practically, or leaving
That's right, every
dinners.
night.
Leaving the dinners that we had prepared. But I do miss the parties, the people that you don't see that much of anymore.
On the dinners we missed, it never bothered me as much as it did my wife. It just she really got mad. And I thought, I'm the one that has to eat it cold when I come back, and I was pumped up and I wanted to go to the station. You hated to leave your dinner, but it didn't make me mad to leave. But
it didn't make me mad
the
either.
poor person that had to prepare it, well,
Right.
I can understand their feeling.
Yeah.
What about you, Leo?
Well, I miss the people.
The people?
All the firemen and so forth. It's such a, how do you put it? We got along so well together, work together, and when you work together and play together, you can get along together. And it's just awful nice to have the association of all the people.
Yeah. We asked Bill Pohl this question. He very angrily almost said the explosion of the population. I missed being able to walk across the street and drive anywhere. That was pretty good too.
Yes.
Yeah, but everyone misses the people
Right.
and the good times. What
Yeah.
do you? What would you change in this town right now if you could change something?
Some of it we don't want to say.
Oh, come on, say it. Sure, you can say it.
Fifth Amendment.
No.
What would you like to change? Anything in zoning? Anything in?
Well, I don't think the leadership listens to the people.
You'd like to have more of
I
that.
like to have them listen to the people, you know. I don't believe they're doing it.
You feel the same way?
Well, a little of that too, but I kind of think they ought to turn their efforts towards some of the bad things that's going on rather than to harass the people about a few RVs.
Okay, we got that one. How about you, Tony?
I just it's maybe what the other man you talked to in the last show, or
Bill Poe,
yeah, where it's dangerous to cross the street and there's so much traffic coming in, and I would like to see it back where it was a lot slower. It just seemed
Yeah.
everything slower.
Yeah.
I don't get into the politics that much. I don't pay that much attention. I'm too busy.
You work at Douglas, don't you?
Mhm.
Everyone we've talked to has had the same feeling. They like it to back to the old town, the
Yes.
old ways. But it's, I don't know what you do about that when progress is
You
coming
can't do it.
and prices are going up.
Go back
No
and
way.
fight one of those manure fires again.
Well, we could go on for a long time, but we are going to have you back for another half hour. Is that okay? We've got lots we haven't covered, and we want the three of you back. You've been terrific. Okay?
Okay,
Thanks a lot to all three of you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Watch us next week because we're going to have another great show with these three. Until then, so long.